Hi, I'm B of the Beehustlez brand, but many of you may know me as the Outfit Lady, and I'm back with a network of opportunities for you. If you're ready to learn some new hustles and take your business to the next level, then we're going to stop right here so you can hit that like and subscribe button, and we're going to get right to it. Alrighty, we are back now, and it's time to jump into threading your machine. But before we get to threading, we need to understand what's actually going on here. I mean, there are all of these parts, there are all of these numbers, there's these zigzags, these lines. I mean, where do you start? So with any machine, you're going to start with your power cord. It is under my desk, so I can't completely show you, but you can get an idea here. You're going to have one or two attachments. One is going to be the foot that you actually press on to get your machine moving. And then there's going to be the power cord attachment. Sometimes these attachments are together. They're dual. As you can see here, I have one attachment for both the power cord and my foot that gets it going. And here is where you're going to attach that. There's going to be somewhere on the side of your machine where you attach your power cord and your foot lever. So you're going to stick that in there. Bam. Next we have the power button on the side. Normally all of this is going to be found on the side of your machine. So you're going to get it plugged in. You're going to set that part up, and then you're going to turn it on. See? Light on, light off. So you turn your sewing machine on 9 times out of 10. You're going to know that because the light comes on, baby. Yes, they keep the light on for you so you can see what you need to see. So you don't be sewing in the dark. They have a tiny light up there. And again, this sewing machine was less than $100. So for less than $100, you can get a decent machine, have some stitches, start practicing, have a light. I mean, it's everything that you need to not only get started, but to actually make clothing. Now, of course, and if you ever get into just heavy manufacturing, or depending on the type of materials that you're sewing, that's when you'll want to get a more heavy duty machine, or maybe a machine that has more stitches if you're trying to do embroidery or monogramming with those presser feet that I showed you before. So next, we've got our machine powered up. We've turned it on. Now let's go over some more key details. Let's move our fabric back. That'll be for later. The hand wheel. The hand wheel you can think of like a manual way of sewing. If you see over here, as I turn this towards me, always towards you and never away, it's bringing the needle up and down, up and down, up and down. We're going to bring that closer. So bring us in a little closer so you can see how I'm turning the lever towards me, and it's just sewing as it would. And if you notice, I have the stitch, which we're going to get to next, on a zigzag stitch. So as I turn this lever here on the side, that lever is usually going to be on the side. You can see it going in a zigzag motion. It's going to this side, and it's going to that side. It's going back to the other side. So that's how that works. So bam, we got our machine powered up. We know where the hand wheel is if we need to manually sew, or in the event that something gets a little stuck. This can help it maybe bring that fabric up from being in a stuck position. Now we have our stitch selector. Our stitch selector is what we use to choose what stitch we want to use. Now on this Brother Lx3817, we have 17 stitch types, but of course we're only going to be working with today only certain ones. You see, got zigzag, small zigzag, medium zigzag, big zigzag, bigger zigzag, straight. I mean, all of those. So you basically choose which one you want. It's all on you, baby. You choose what you want. There is the notch. It's always going to be some type of notch there, so you know wherever you turn it, it's going to choose the one that lines up with that notch. So that is how you are choosing which stitch you want to use. Again, this machine. Some machines are considered manual, and others have like an electronic capability where instead of a wheel where you manually turn, there'll be a screen, and on the screen you'll actually punch in which stitch you want. See here, these stitches are numbered 1 through 17. If this was a digital sewing, so again, depending on which machine you have, some of these things may vary. Like I said, some may be on a digital screen, but it'll still work the same way. You'll just punch the number in, and that's what will choose the stitch for you. So we have the hand wheel over here, a power cord, stitch selector. Now we're at our back stitch. Back stitching and reverse stitching is on every machine. Is what you need to lock the stitch in place. Before you start a stitch and when you end the stitch, you will hold that down and it's going to sew backwards. You do it simultaneously, all at the same time. You hold and you press your foot to sew backwards a stitch. And then you would let go of it and continue to sew forward. And that basically locks the stitch in. What's next on the list? Because I'm going to show you all of this. And you're going to have some homework, sisters and brothers. So I want to see those stitches, because at the end we're going to do a row of a couple of these stitches just to see what they look like and to give you some practice. Okay, next we have, on the list I have stitch width and stitch length. Now on some sewing machines there's actually going to be a stitch length and width. It does not come on this machine. Usually you'll find a little rolling lever at the top that you would choose the length and width. But here you just have your basic upper thread tension. You see it's over here with the upper thread, and usually that stays around 4. As you can, let's bring it in. I'm gonna say, as you can see, y'all, I can't see that. Okay. You see, again, there's a little notch at the top, so we know if we line our number up with that notch, that's going to be our selection. And 4 is pretty much a basic tension. When you start to sew, if there's something you're making and you feel like it needs to be less tense, it's too tight, or it needs to loosen up, then you would just change that. The smaller the number, the tighter it sews. That tightens the tension. And then the larger numbers, like really when you go past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's looser tension. And when you're sewing, you want your tension to be tight, because that determines if your sewing is going to stay or not. Usually when people use this larger numbers for the tension, that's when they're doing something that they don't plan on keeping that way. They're actually going to just stitch and then probably end up taking that stitch out. And you're probably like, why would someone sew something just to take the stitch out? But we'll get there, okay? It's just they know they don't want it to be permanent at the time. They may just trying to see how it looks together, or it may be in order to ruffle something up. So we really don't need those. 4 is just fine. It's not too tight. It's not too loose. you know, and you can always adjust that if you feel that something is too tight or too loose. So that is the upper tension dial. We don't have stitch width and length on this machine. Okay, so here we have the spool pin, like we talked about here. I really don't even think this one goes with this machine. It actually goes with my other machine, but it's the same thing. It's a pin to put the thread on. So we have that there. Let's go ahead and start unraveling our thread. You see, it's going to be a little notch somewhere right there where you can pull the thread out and it'll start unraveling. I had to use my teeth actually. Okay, and there we got the thread going. So we want our thread to kind of be coming from the back. That's the way you're going to position it. You see how I'm rolling it up like so. Up here, every machine has a thread guide, and I'm actually going to come up off of here so I can actually show you guys a little better. The thread guide. You see these little indentations at the top are going to help you guide your machine to being sewed. So you see we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. It's saying it starts here. They're telling you that's the thread, that little circle, and they're telling you it's gonna keep coming on down until you get to here. That's when you're gonna lock that on in. So let's see. See? You probably like, nah, I can't see that. Hey, I'm doing the best I can here. I had to get that bird's eye view for y'all. So thread going along this way, and we end up here. You're gonna take that through that first little notch, and we haven't wound the bobbin. Oh my gosh, we forgot about the bobbin. Y'all like, what's the bobbin? Y'all ain't forgot what the bobbin is. Not that quick. We finna have to take it back now. Our lovely bobbin. Remember these, guys? So we're going to thread these. In order to do that, because remember I told you it's like a two-part process. You need your bobbins and you need the top thread. So you see everything set up. I'm going to sit that up there. So this is where we sit the bobbin. Don't start spinning your bobbin until you have pressed it. Look, my machine moving. See, it is lightweight. Until you have pressed it tight. You heard that click? Whole machine finna fall over. Click. Okay? Click. It needs to be against here, because if it's not, and you put your foot down there and start sewing, it is going to sew the needle. This isn't about the needle right now. This is about winding our bobbin so we can start sewing. So you're going to click, press that together. We're going to take our thread. We're going to follow those lines they showed us. I got my thread. We come here to where that hole is, that little line, that notch. We're going to get up in there. This is only for winding your bobbin, because remember before we were finna start going down, but we don't go down yet because we want to wind our bobbin. So take that around there like that, and then bring it over here to where your bobbin is. We're actually going to take it off for 2 seconds because that's to show y'all this. So you see this little hole on your bobbin? Probably don't, but it got a hole right there. That's where we're gonna start. Put our little thread through there. And I'm not gonna lie, you don't always have to do that. Sometimes I just spins it and lets it go. That's just to ensure that it don't go nowhere. Wrap it around about 3, 4, 5 times, at least about 5 times. So you see that? That ain't going nowhere. We put it, oh y'all can't see. My bad. Put it through that hole. Wrap it around a few times. And we're gonna put it back. And we're gonna click it back. And then we're gonna get down here and get our foot together. Now that it's clicked and it's in place, we can start it. We can put our foot down there. We're gonna give this a little, not pull, but just hold it up. Make sure it gets where it's going. And as you press your foot at the bottom, instead of the needle again, it's going to spin the bobbin and wind it up. Okay. See that? Twisted that around, and now we're getting some good bobbin winding. And you know, you just keep going, keep going, keep going. It gets full, it'll slow down, it'll stop. But I hope y'all understand. I can always do another one-on-one on my Patreon accounts for those who don't. And so here's the bobbin. It's still connected to that long piece of thread. So we're gonna turn our machine over. We're gonna take this thread and we're gonna cut it off. You see that? For a sewing machine, less than $100, like I said, it is pretty darn good. You have this area here where you can snip your threads, turn it back around, and now we got our bobbin, and so it is threaded and ready to go. And let's get back to threading the upper thread, because the bobbin is only part of the bottom thread notion of this. So back. So we put it back through that notch up there at the top. But this time we're not going to go around the little bobbin wheel. We're just going to keep going down. So this time we're not wrapping it around this part, because that part is done for the bobbin. We're just going to take that sucker straight down. There are more thread guides here to lead us on. You see, there are arrows. There will be arrows. They're guiding you. They're your thread guides. Okay? They're your thread guides. And we're going to hook it on the take up lever. Inside of your machine, there will be a lever that you want to make sure your thread hooks on. That silver piece, that's very important, because if your thread doesn't hook on that when you're going around, it's done all wrong. It's not going to sew properly. So let's take all of this back. Okay, let's go back. Got our bobbin round thread. We're going to take it here. We're going to go here. We're not going over here. We're just going right here in this notch now. Bring it down. Bring it up under that wheel. Bring it up. Hook it onto the take up lever and bring it back down. Now, come on, we got to bring y'all back down as well. Come on, my lovelies. Let's bring y'all back down with me so we can see what's going on. Alrighty. So here, we're going to take this thread, now that it's gone all around, come back down. Now it's all the way down. We're going to hook it. Right. Okay, I really need you guys to see this. This here is where your thread needs to go. Right in front of the needle, there will be a notch, a hook, and you hook your thread onto there. And now that that's done, the last thing to do is to take the end of your thread. You may need to lick it. You may need to give it a snip at the end. That will help the fuzzy wuzzy. And then you will be inserting it into the eye of your needle. Now, another tip, which is not, you know, the most important thing in determining a sewing machine, but it's definitely something when you get to a certain level in your sewing, it helps to have an automatic threader. Now I have a Brother Lx3817. You can go and look up the specs on that one. It's a computerized machine. It actually has the ability to self-thread. And she's in the shop right now, but when she gets out, I'll definitely go do another video showing you the specs on that, and we can do a comparison from the basic sewing machine to that sewing machine. So here, the needle, I got it threaded, put it through the needle, and I'm going to slip it right through the presser foot. So let me show y'all. The presser foot has this area right here, this little slit. Yeah, it has that slit. When you get through threading it, you're going to take the thread through that slit and onto the back of the machine. Now here's our bobbin. We're back with our bobbin, and our bobbin is ready to join in. So everything on your sewing machine, remember, it has a guide, even how to drop your bobbin in. It tells you which way, it gives you a diagram of which way that should be inserted. So I'm going to take that thread this way. You see the thread is coming from the back once again, just like with the top thread. Drop it in. You bring the thread this way because that's what the guide is telling me. And remember, with sewing machines, there are always notches. You threaded your machine and it's still not working properly. One thing may be it's not in the grooves. There are always little grooves here and there. You have to make sure that your machine is threaded properly. So there's a groove in there that the thread needs to go on, and then it comes on around to another snip that automatically gets rid of that piece. So there we have it. Everything's dropped in. We're gonna click, click, clack, click, clack, moo. Okay, OGs know about that. Click, clack, moo. Cows that type. Yeah, So yeah, there we have it, and it's time to get to the sewing portion, and we're almost done.